Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where I talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and/or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Timeless, as well as the season premiere of Into the Badlands. Like always, if I'm talking about something you want to listen to, you can always look in the description down below. I'll include the time when I start talking about each of the respective shows. So, for example, if you want to hear what I say about this week's episode of Timeless, you can skip to what I say about the season premiere of Into the Badlands. But the first thing I'm going to talk about is this week's episode of Timeless. So in this episode, we have the team going back to 1936 San Antonio, Texas. Basically, the whole episode revolves around the famous singer Robert Johnson, the one Crossroads, who made the deal with the devil so he can learn how to play guitar. I like how they specifically said it in this episode. Like, it wasn't like the devil like made him be able to play the guitar. Like, well, he did, but it's like, it's not like he just magically gave him the power. What he did is the devil took the guitar and tuned it. I was like, oh, I like that aesthetic, that thought of like the devil tuning the guitar and then handing it to him and then he could just magically play, rather than just like, oh, I magically pass the spell, boom, you can play it now. It's like it adds like a different layer of, I don't know, flair to it in a shape or form. What makes this episode unique is obviously this is our first episode with the new four-seater, so yay! Sadly, Wyatt's sitting out, but we have Flynn, Lucy, and Rufus going, and then a surprise person coming along, Mason. That was kind of interesting, because even Mason's like, what? I'm not going, I can't go, I gotta stay here, but it's like he's the one that knows the most about Robert Johnson, because at first it seems like, oh, Robert Johnson died. It's like, it's not that big of a deal. It's like, well, actually it is, because what the music he creates is what eventually leads to blues kind of blowing up to what it is, and eventually leading to rock and roll. It's basically what kind of, because, you know, all that kind of led to the eventual counterculture. So it's like, it kind of lit the fire in counterculture. So it's like, without Robert Johnson, none of that would exist. Then there's a whole situation like someone tried to kill him during the recording, and so it's also sad too, the dude who was recording everything, Don, he sadly ended up dying too. Especially because what's so sad about these situations is because of Lucy and the other characters, you actually get to know these characters a little bit more, knowing that everything Don's doing is trying to get back at his dad. He's like, oh, doing everything to prove that his dad's wrong, and it's so messed up because it's like, oh man, you get to know these characters a little bit, and you're kind of sad to know that things kind of play out with them for them in this time, especially because the conversations between him and Lucy, because Lucy's the one that convinced him to like do this in the first place, you know, to take this chance on Johnson, because it's like, oh, you hear his talent. He's like, yeah, you're right. I do know that he is something special. And then sadly, it's that Don ends up getting killed by his girlfriend and or wife, who is a sleeper agent, which is just like, damn, dude, they are just all over the place, and you never know in what shape or form they're going to strike. And that's just such a damn shame. But a big part of this was the fact is that Johnson, believing that he was cursed, he was just, because he's basically lived his whole life with so much happening. Apparently, he talked about the fact that he was a widower at 18 and 21. I don't actually know that much about his, like, I know stuff here and there that's kind of popped up about him, like references or like storylines related to that whole like Crossroads situation, but that's about it. I've never actually dived too deeply into him. I've heard stuff here and there, but that's about it. Like I said, I could have sworn there's like I think I referenced this before when something like this came up too, but I think it was like, I could have sworn there's like a Ralph Macchio movie, where he played a character in a similar situation. I think it was called Crossroads. I don't remember. But because of this whole aspect of not knowing, you know, he thinks everything around him, people get hurt and die because of him. He doesn't want to, like, he's just tired. So I guess in his mind, it's like, if I just put down a guitar, if I don't worry about, like, it's because I'm playing music that I'm keeping this deal alive. It's like, if I stop playing music, if I put down a guitar forever, then I guess in his mind, it'd be like, everything's okay. Maybe he'll just go away and just kind of isolate himself away from the people he cares about. Even had that moment in that place where they were with Johnson, where Mason was kind of geeking out and stuff like that, because he's a huge fan. Like, that's why he kind of got brought along with this mission, because he's so well versed in all of this. But his whole situation kind of got him thinking about his own situation, because he even compares himself, because he's like, well, I didn't make the outright deal with the devil like you did, but he's like, I made a deal with the devil of my own. His whole situation, Rittenhouse, because basically now in the present day, he's losing everything. He was obviously already in the process of losing it, because he took blame for everything that went down basically at, well, end of season 1 technically, but really the beginning of season 2, the building exploding and everything, all that fault. Now basically he's losing control of Mason Industries, where it's like all his control. So let's say like he had like 51% control, like all his 51% probably goes to the board and is probably given to them, or someone else is kind of stepping in to take that. So it's already shown that he's kind of fallen on hard times. But for like Mason, it's like everything that he ever worked for, all that he ever had, all his name and reputation are dragged through the mud. Like now he's just a nobody. And I was actually kind of wondering if that would be kind of something that plays in this episode, that he would decide like, oh, I'm gonna stay in this time because there's no point for me to go back. Which I feel like, no, they weren't gonna let you do that anyway. But I thought that's kind of what he was gonna plan. But it's like, no, once he gets back, he's like, oh, I'm gonna go off on my own, because it's like I can't really be useful to the team at all. Sadly, he was in a situation this episode where he kind of had to kill that sleeper agent to protect Rufus. It's that sad situation of like he had to. I mean, he was trying to protect Rufus, so there's that, but it's still that complication of it took a lot. I mean, Rufus kind of had a hard time dealing with it the first time it happened too. So, but fortunately, Mason was the one who was able to kind of convince Robert to essentially face his fears. It's like, you're talking about all this bad luck and all this stuff following you. Well, it's going to follow you for the rest of your life unless you stay and fight. Don't just give up, because he's kind of talking about himself too. And I think that's something we're going to see from Mason. We probably won't see him get. I'm curious to see what he does deciding to fight back. Maybe it is just like, oh, if he dedicates himself to helping put like this whole mission to rest, this whole like Rittenhouse situation rest, then he can kind of go back to building up his reputation, his business, or maybe they'll kind of go down a different avenue. And I don't know. I'm curious to see what he ultimately decides to do. But what's kind of interesting about this episode is that it did bring Flynn and Lucy closer together, which is kind of interesting, which I kind of had a feeling that's where they were kind of like, where their relationship was kind of developing more towards, because it comes at a different direction, because Flynn feels like he knows Lucy. I thought that was kind of interesting thing. Because like I said, I don't remember whatever happened to Journal. Like who does, where is that? Does Lucy have it somewhere stashed away? Like I said, does like Agent Christopher have it stashed away? Because Lucy hasn't popped it out. Like they kind of show it in the previews of him handing it to her, but I guess like she just stashed it away because she doesn't need it anymore, or she doesn't want to compromise. I mean, I don't know like what exactly happened to that, but nevertheless, at the beginning, that journal was meant to be like, oh, my key to taking down Rittenhouse. But as time went on, he got attached to it because, so many of Lucy's personal thoughts and who she is and all her thoughts and adventures are written down in that book. So he got to know her. He felt like he understood her in a way that no one else could, because it's like, oh, I can basically read your mind. I know what you're thinking, so it kind of adds this different layer to it. Which initially, obviously Lucy's still kind of fighting it a little bit, being like, you don't really know me. Don't try, think you understand what I'm going through. But I mean, obviously out of anyone he does, because I mean, they're still in that same situation. Wyatt's no longer in that situation where, I mean, he's got Jessica back, but for both of them, it's like she's still missing Amy and he's still missing his wife and daughter. He even brings up the fact is that his wife liked that song and these little things here and there. And then Lucy's like, you knew my mom liked this song. That's why you brought it up. And he's just kind of like, you got to meet the Lucy in that journal. She's pretty impressive. I just thought that was kind of just a nice touch, because for her, it kind of brought up something that I brought up, hadn't been talked about so far this season about her sister. It's like, we won't ever get people back we love. And he's like, well, we won't if we give up hope. And so I thought it was kind of nice. Like, he kind of understood where she was coming from and how she was feeling. And it was something that I feel like is kind of putting that Wyatt and her situation a little more awkwardly, because him and Rufus having that awkward conversation about Rufus being like, yeah, you two go ahead and enjoy the room. Y'all, do it, bumping nasties and stuff like that. They're giggling about it. And, it's that situation of like, obviously Wyatt is very conflicted, but he can't really let on that he's conflicted. And Lucy's trying to pretend like she's trying to make it seem like she's A-okay when in actuality it hurts. And, maybe if they were more upfront with each other, maybe things would be different. But like I said, at the end of the episode, we see her going to Flynn's room with a drink, which once again, I'll bring up the conversation of it's a little, I don't know, maybe it'll just stay as a friendship thing. Maybe it won't turn into anything intimate, but I was like, it will literally turn into the same situation, because like, Flynn has a whole situation with his wife and daughter, and in case you do fix this whole Rittenhouse situation, it's like, well, then you got to worry about the fact is your lives, it'll be kind of a repeat. It's kind of something I brought up before, so I'm like, it's a little awkward, that whole situation, but nevertheless. Also, really quickly, I forgot to talk about Mason. The whole, like, during the recording, he got so into it, he was like, yeah! And he's like, oh, sorry. And even Rufus was like, what are you doing? I was like, oh, that was so good. And did he play in the record player? I was like, please tell me there's a, and you hear, yeah, and it's like, and Mason's trip. He's like, yeah, I was I also love the fact is that he was Lando Calrissian, It even says out in the back, engineered by Lando. I thought that was kind of neat. Lucy being Taylor Swift and Flynn being Timberland. Not Timberland, Timberlake, sorry. We're the new FBI. I like that. But getting back to it, it's just interesting to see like that kind of weird, awkward situation between the whole Ford and Flynn, Lucy, Wyatt, and Jessica. And you can just tell, like, because obviously, like, Lucy is kind of pulling a little bit away from Wyatt just because, like, it, like, legitimately, it just hurts too much. That's kind of one of the reasons why she's drinking as much. One of, I'm sure the main reason is just all that time she spent with her mom, which she still hasn't opened up to anyone about. I mean, to be fair, Flynn might know more about that. I mean, I'm curious, like, up to what point does that notebook. Well, it seems like it went a good amount into the future, so it's probably a situation of he knows a lot more about Lucy's future than he lets on, which, I don't know. Which I said adds an element of kind of it's kind of cheating, but he knows her better than anyone. Even she knows herself because it's like, oh, she might be thinking this, but he kind of is already in her mind because he knows how she thinks and how she feels, you know, so. But in this episode, we also had Agent Christopher sending Wyatt in by himself, and you constantly had Gia being like, are we really doing this? We need to give him backup. Christopher kept giving it the excuse of like, well, I don't know who I can trust, but immediately, like, my brain thinks that combined with the fact that she was like, keep going, this is our chance to take them down once and for all, even though she herself, let's not forget, said that this was only going to be a recon mission, and yet she sent him in there, just kept pushing down further and further down a rabbit hole. And when it came to Carol, she was like, kill Carol. And she kind of chastises him a little bit later on for not being able to pull the trigger. She's like, I don't know what's going on between you and Lucy, but that's the reason why you couldn't pull that trigger, because that's Lucy's mom. You need to figure it out. And he's like, yes, ma'am. And it's like, obviously, she's trying to pretend like her emotions aren't clouding her judgment, because she's doing this because Rittenhouse threatened her and her family, and she wants them to pay for it. Like, revenge is what's motivating her actions. I'm sure currently this. And I wonder, did she kind of realize it when she's looking at Wyatt at the end like that? Like, it seems like it might dawn on her to a certain extent, but maybe she hasn't completely 100% realized it yet. But that was her motivation. It's just because she wanted, in particular, as I shoot Carol. It's like, no point in your mind did you go, we need to take Carol because we can pump her for information. It's like, no, kill her because she's the one that threatened my family. So, you know, it's not like I said, Agent Christopher isn't looking at the situation logically, she's looking at it emotionally too. So it's not just Logan, you know, I mean, Wyatt. I don't know why I keep saying that, because his last name's Logan, right? Yeah. Yeah. That's the second time. Nevertheless, I'm getting off topic. I apologize. So that does add an element. We do see that Nicholas and Carol escape. I am curious what kind of information they will find. I mean, most of it's most likely destroyed, but still, maybe there's some little scraps here and there that they could find out about. I'm also curious to see because obviously that is going to push, you know, Wyatt to kind, you know, probably try and, like I said, it's a complicated situation. You fell in love with someone else after your wife had been dead for such a long time. You were in the right to move on. So it's like I said, it goes back to the situation of, I don't know whether Lucy did the right thing trying to make things better between, like I said, because she felt weird about it. It's like, oh, I know that Wyatt's done so much for you. It's not right for me to kind of get into your way. It's like, oh, you've had this romance and everything, and it's like, I'm just kind of the new situation. It's like, the only reason why he's with me is because he couldn't be with you. I think that's the kind of mindset. And it's like, oh, you know, Wyatt deserves to be happy, but it's like, you deserve to be happy too. And it's like, you obviously have feelings for each other, and it makes this situation once again awkward, but super, super complicated in that regard. And that is ultimately, I feel like, something Wyatt is going to have to decide. Like I said, it did make him a little oblivious because Lucy does pretend like she's so A-okay with it. Maybe that's why he makes an extra effort to seem like he's okay with it too, just because it's like, I guess because he gets so used to falling back into old habits between him and Jessica, he doesn't even think, which is sad, doesn't even think to consider like, oh, how Lucy really feels. You apologize and everything, but you don't really, you know, Lucy's putting up a front, but I guess he's so oblivious to it. He's so caught up in his own situation, he's not willing to see how hurt she is, you know? Once again, Flynn's the only one who really sees it. Because even, you know, Rufus is kind of a little, not really oblivious. Even he's kind of willing to kind of like look past a lot of that stuff too, you know? So I don't know. Which, combined with all that, we also had the final tidbit in the episode is the whole Gia situation, which once again, not everyone knows about the whole Vision situation, which is like, when is everyone else going to find out about it? Currently, the only person who's really getting any benefit from these visions is Rufus. Now, why specifically Rufus? I don't know. Maybe it's because Rufus is the key to so much stuff that's going to go down in the future. I also think it is probably just because, like, for Gia, it's like he's the person she cares about the most. Maybe something at that point in time when they were in the lifeboat together, like something in Gia kind of like mapped together, like some synapses or some like sparks combined, like on some quantum level. I know I'm throwing out sciencey terms between her and Rufus, the reason why things are transpiring. Like I said, I like to think it's because, like, well, Rufus is going to be a key point in some things. I mean, sadly, what we have in this situation is Rufus kept telling her not to say anything, but now she has to, and we find out that she saw potentially his death. Which, once again, we still haven't 100%. I mean, it still seems like at this point in time, things are always going to work out the way they're supposed to be. Like, things are always going to, like, so if he's supposed to die, no matter what points he tries to deviate from it, he'll always end up like that. Like I said, her visions aren't clear cut in a lot of cases, so just because she sees him laying down doesn't mean that he's dead. Maybe he's faking being dead or something like that. Maybe, you know, context may not appear in the vision, so. But it does put that problem in your head of, like, once you know that you're going to die in a certain way, especially because he knows it's cowboys, just like the whole situation with that during the Salem witch hunts that kind of caused, you know, him to kind of get so paranoid. Well, no, because I take that back because I'm an idiot. The team doesn't, well, most people know about her situation. Not everyone, because Flynn knows and so does Lucy. I mean, I don't know if they 100% believe it now, but they were there when he explained it. So Agent Christopher and Wyatt are the only ones who probably don't know anything about it. Currently, you know, I'm sure Rufus also hasn't told anyone else too, because it's like, well, I guess at the time it's like the visions also only concern him. So I'm curious to see, will they eventually develop into talking about including the other people as well or not? So I know a lot to think about. Who's to say that it will be the next episode that the whole cowboy situation happens? Maybe it will, maybe it won't. Because usually her visions are pretty soon afterwards. Like, so, like, literally, I think the next episode after having that vision of him during the Salem witch trials was the Salem witch trials thing was the next episode. So it seems like they happen in pretty close proximity to, like, the visions happening. So ultimately, we'll just kind of have to wait and see what goes down in the next episode. So, and now moving on to the season premiere of Into the Badlands, a great premiere with a lot of interesting things that we kind of got to break down bit by bit. Obviously, it's been 6 months. Obviously, starting off right off the bat, we have Minerva going to Nathaniel. Wasn't expecting that. I guess I shouldn't be too surprised. He is kind of like, I mean, after losing his hand, he is like one of the like number one clippers out there, so it kind of makes sense. It is interesting to find out that he actually served under Minerva's husband. I guess that was the fact is he doesn't know who she was. That must have been like at a point in time when her husband was much younger or something like that. I mean, we don't really know how old her husband is. He could have just been like we know he's like a pervy, disgusting older dude anyway. So maybe it's like a really old, disgusting pervert dude. But nevertheless, because I guess even Nathaniel knew about him because even he was like, oh yeah, if it wouldn't have been for you, I would have probably at some point in time I wanted to kind of cut down him with like his soulless black heart or something like that, So. That's pretty impressive seeing that fight. I was kind of hoping she was going to do it more, but when she kicks the swords out, I was kind of hoping she'd go by each grave and like kick and knock the swords to that way it'd be. I don't know. I like it when people fight with multiple weapons like that. When it's like, oh yeah, like dude, like that's why like Roanoa Zolo from I kind of butchered that a little bit because in my head I always want to think Zolo, but it's actually Zoro just because English dub and Japanese. Nevertheless, beside the point, I guess that's why I always like the aspect of like multiple sword fighting. But nevertheless, it's pretty impressive fighting on top of that tower too. I always think it's so cool when they fight on like such small areas. It's such a small circumference that they're fighting on, and like the width of it is so small too. Plus, she's fighting in high heels too. That's like super freaking impressive. Ended up being a draw, and also Nathaniel's got that claw thing too. So. She's going to help him track down Sonny because for him it's like I either kill Sonny or Sonny kills me because Sonny stole his honor by not killing him. But that's Sonny's thing. He's not here he wasn't trying to give Nathaniel honor or whatever. He wasn't trying to kill for that purpose. He just wanted to get back to Ville and Harriet at that time. So that's definitely going to be interesting to see how that all kind of coincides. Because with Sonny well, let's focus on Minerva for a bit. These circumstances, we see MK's kind of locked up in a little. He's got a little room, but it's more of a cage. It seems like she's been prodding and trying to train MK over these past 6 months, but nothing's worked. His ability still hasn't come back. I guess it's more of like a mind over matter type of situation. It's because of what he saw. I think it's more of a mental and emotional block. The reason why his abilities won't work, because it's like they didn't. I mean, not unless it's kind of like we got like I know kind of going off a nerdy other perspective, but kind of like a Naruto thing, where it's like his whole chi and everything is so out of whack because of something else. Maybe the last time the master did something to him, like it blocked off his abilities, or like I said, it is more of a mental block situation of knowing the realization that he killed his mom, like did a number on him. Because we never actually found out how he awoke from that situation. He was just out when he went in, and they never, I guess he just woke up on his own afterwards. So not unless there's something that happened in between that time we just don't know about, but nevertheless. And that's still something we have to kind of cut back to too. We haven't been, the last time we saw the master was when Baji and MK went in there to get, quote unquote, get what they needed to help Sunny. Obviously Baji had his own plans as well. But it's kind of sad to see MK the way he is, because like Minerva's trying to be like, oh, I'm the only one there is for you. Sonny's a bad. He hasn't come to you in like the 6 months of, I'm the only one here, which he kind of remarks as like, well, you're not really have anyone. Where's Waldo? Even though because let's not forget, she promised Waldo like, oh, you could be a Baron, but I guess he just up and left because Tilda had asked him to come with her in Odessa, but he never did. So it does beg the question, where is he? I doubt he is off being a a Baron at this point in time. He's probably just kind of off living a quiet life, just trying to get away from all this BS, I guess, until the storm quiets down. And also, like I said, Tilda, it's left you as well. So, I mean, what does she really plan to, because she's still, and it's something Nathaniel kind of brought up too. It's like, oh, you're the one that's all about taking down the system, but she has kept everything in place because she's trying to win her war against Chow, because Chow was the only standing, Baron left. Interesting enough with Chow too, we have not seen her subsequently since before Sunny betrayed her and started working with the Widow last season. That was the last time we saw her last season, which is kind of interesting. I wonder what else she's been up to in all of that time. I mean, preparing for war, which is an outright bloody onslaught, major death on both sides, because neither one of them is willing to cave into the other. Because for Minerva, it's like, oh, once I get what I want, then I'll tear down this whole system and just have to, because it's that whole process of like things need to change gradually, even though she originally wanted to change everything all at once. Like I said, we still don't ultimately know what her goal is. Like we know her goal is to get her powers back. She wants MK to get his powers back because MK has one of the strongest gifts. Even in like, Master commented on it, like it is easily one of the strongest gifts she's ever seen. So I think that's something that Minerva is kind of counting on too. I wonder will that tie it, because we have not, like, I want to see them interact, Minerva and the Master, because we haven't, I want to, like, will she leave the monastery to kind of deal with this situation? It's probably like that's kind of its own thing. We'll deal with everything, because we don't know what the situation was like after all those novices were cut and kind of went on a spree on their own. So that was kind of left for the Master to handle. I'm pretty sure she took care of it, but still. But this war does take its toll, because, like, you see Minerva having to console that mom. She's the mother of that girl, flag bearer, at the beginning of the episode, which is kind of interesting, because the moment she was up going in there kicking ass, I was like, oh, don't tell me she's like the new Tilda. And then a rain of bows hit her. Of arrows hit her. I'm like, oh, never mind. She's not. She just happened to be the flag bearer. Because that's the thing about Minerva, like, it's hard to say, because it seems like she does legitimately think she's doing the right thing, that she has the best intentions at heart, but it's like, I think you're still so clouded by your own need for power that I guess it's a situation of you need power to kind of get what you want, to kind of bend the world the way you want, but then it's still that situation of like, you're going about it such a disgusting way. You've pushed away all your allies, you went about things the crappy ways, so, I don't know. I'm just curious to see what everything's going to look like if she wins this. I'm assuming she's going to win it, but I'm curious to see what exactly the world will look like when she wins. We do find out that Tilda and Odessa are part of a new group called the Iron Rabbits. Whether it's just them or I could have sworn there was a third one, but maybe that was just my imagination. So I don't know how many of them there actually are, because Tilda and Odessa are the only main ones we really saw. So maybe it's just them. I mean, last time we saw, they were the only ones. I did like that they ended up she ran into she's like, "You, what happened?" He's like, "Oh yeah, I'm a prisoner again." It's like, dude, Baji, you can't help yourself but get damn it caught. Why? You're so, I don't know, you think someone who's the fast talker always getting out of situations is like you. I guess the serendipity of it all is that because he will get out of the situation, because someone else will pop up and then he'll kind of get up free of the situation. So I love the conversations between him and Lydia. It's kind of like he's kind of chastising her, because it's like, oh, you're trying to help and everything. You, the lady that stood by and let Quinn do so much of what he did. It's like, oh, something worse than an ex-baroness, a religionist. Because it seems like she is taking a lot of the teachings of like her dad and what are they? Totemless. She's kind of taking a lot of those principles because she's bringing in refugees. I guess it's her way of trying to make up for the past, all the stuff that being so caught up in all her like stuff that she's now trying to help people caught up in the middle of this giant war. Tilda seems so hell bent on revenge, and that was something that Lydia tried to talk her out of, because for Tilda it's like she wants to do whatever she can to hurt Minerva. It's like, that's not my mom, but it's just like, because she went out of her way and hit a convoy that specifically belonged, because she knows it's like, well, we didn't get supplies, but we got a prisoner, so that's probably going to piss Minerva off even more. And it's like, so that's what Tilda's mind is set on. And also the whole MK situation too, because no one's come for him. Sonny dealing with people coming after him because he's got a reward on his head. Who exactly? I don't know. I mean, there's plenty of people that will want Sonny dead. I mean, he's killed, once again, 400 plus people, because, I mean, last time he counted was 404. Obviously, that number's way higher just because all the people he has had to take care of. But, he stopped counting, so it doesn't matter. But, I mean, it matters, but it doesn't matter. You get what I'm trying to say? So there's a lot of people that want him dead. Kind of similar thing with Nathaniel too. So not just the fact that Nathaniel wants him dead / wants to die by Sonny's end, but also like a lot of people want Nathaniel dead for all the clipping he did in his day. On top of that, Sonny's dealing with the whole situation of like handling this without veil. It's like, how do I know how to be a good father? Which, like, that whole setup was kind of interesting inside the little RV when he pressed that switch and the spikes came up and just got the guy in the neck / head. I was like, wow. That's a nice quote unquote crib setup you got there. He ends up it turns out that Henry ends up getting sick, and the moment the lady cuts him, and it's like she kind of looks at her, I'm like, no way, is he? They go check it out, and in fact, Henry is a dark one. He has the gift, and then I'm going, what? Because I was like, that's something that's always floated in the back of my mind, because like Sonny's, like, the connection to MK, the compass, and all that stuff. It's like, are you a dark one in some shape or form? I was like, no, but you don't have the ability. But it never crossed my mind to think, well, Sonny could easily have his abilities taken away, much like Baji or MK or Minerva. So it's like his powers probably are there. They're dormant. Because I'm like, how would that come about any other way other than that? Like, it exists within Sonny. It just hasn't been activated. Like, maybe when he was super young, the power was stripped from him. He doesn't remember a lot of his early life anyway. So that's still a possibility. Plus, like, the master, she's kind of older too. So maybe she would be aware. I don't know. Like, I feel like if your powers are dormant, it'd be hard to kind of, well, I don't know. Because even when MK's powers were dormant, they couldn't track them. Not unless they were actually tracking Ava's powers at that time. I guess that's something to kind of think about too. But because I think they were locking on the Baji at one point in time too. So even if your gifts are dormant, it still will track to some extent, I think. So I don't know. I mean, that begs the question, like, I can only assume that's what that all means. I'm also curious, does that mean Sonny's going to go after MK too? I mean, the main reason why he isn't going after MK is because he's dealing with his own situation. Like, he's taking care of a baby. He can't really be going on rescue mission on somebody with a baby, especially when it means going up against Minerva right now. It's like not the best time, especially because her and her people are on high alert. Like, he already kind of went through one situation going up against Quinn to try and rescue Vel and Henry, and look what it cost him, you know. And he said it himself. He's like, yeah, Moon tried to warn me. The fact of the matter is, like, I would end up getting, you know, Vel killed. In his mind, it's like, I did, you know. It's like, that wasn't you. That was all Quinn. But, you know, Sonny being who he is going to take all that blame on himself. So I do like the fact is that they all have gathered here. I mean, to be fair, I don't know if Tilda's still at that camp or not, but I hope she is, just so she can run into Sonny. She run into Baji, which Baji's still kind of like, no, I'm not. I guess because he knows he's going to be walking right into the lion's den if he goes back to try and help MK. It's like, I'm not going to do him any good because Minerva's just going to capture me and then try and figure this whole thing out. So she's just going to use me. So, like I said, immediately starting off some very interesting things, especially at the end, because obviously Baji sent out that Morse code signal at the end of season 2 with that tower, that kind of a radio tower type of thing. So, but he says there was no response, so he's kind of given up on the whole Azra thing. So I guess that's why he's a little more cynical with this whole, like, trying to rescue anybody thing, because it's like, oh, for what? It doesn't matter, you know, plus his own self-interest, which I think Baji tries to make himself seem a lot more self-centered than he actually is, because he actually cares when it comes down to it. Yes, he does always try to find his own prize amongst all the bullshit, but you know, he still helps when you know, when stuff gets going and stuff gets, you know, shitty. But what's kind of interesting is the group at the end. I can only assume they're from quote unquote Azra, or not even, well, maybe they're from Azra, but whatever, they are Dark Ones. So I would assume it's a situation of they've basically come to invade, because that Morse code let them know, okay, it's time, because it's like, oh, the promised land lays before us. So I guess that it's meant, I guess at one point in time, the Badlands were the promised lands, and now it's like maybe their plan is to come here, conquer, and restore it to its original beauty type of thing. Maybe it's kind of like some ancient power or something is sealed or buried within the Badlands that they want, you know, or maybe they're originally from the Badlands, they were banished and now they've come here to take it over. I don't know. Like I said, I would assume this has something to do with Azra. The fact is that they just popped up. I mean, because all of a sudden you just got all these Dark Ones heading into the Badlands, because they ended up hitting one of Chow's checkpoints, so I can only assume into the Badlands. Well, it's kind of interesting too about one of the people that transformed the dude, his stopped midway through and then it clicked back on. So either it was just kind of like it wore out and it took a second and needs to recharge, but the girl never had to recharge. So either he was just kind of slowly being acquainted with this power, maybe his is fading, because eventually, like, that has been the thing, that the more and more you use your power, apparently the closer it comes to killing you. So maybe that's what that's supposed to represent, or maybe just his power's imperfect, so it clicks in and out whenever it wants to. Like, it can have a tendency to brown out or something. So it's like, learn to come bow down to your Messiah. Either you join us or die type of situation. So does that mean they're aiming for regular people too? I guess it's a situation of we've come here to serve as your gods, and there's a god above us that's kind of leading things. Maybe it's that lady that was with all three of them. So I don't know. Like I said, an interesting premiere with a lot of interesting developments. I'm excited to see what the rest of the season has in store for us, in particular, what the next episode has in store for us. Something to also think about too, really quickly, about this whole situation is the fact that Baji admits he's never seen anyone as young as Henry develop his ability. Henry's literally not even 1 yet, potentially, and it's like he's already developed as a Dark One, and it's like, what the hell is that? I mean, that could also represent the fact is that Sonny, that might be something in Sonny's genes too that make him the one. Like I said, like I've talked about, that's still something we still know nothing about, the whole gift situation. Like, I wonder, does even the Master or Baji even really know? It's just kind of a thing that's like, oh, it happens to us, but we don't know why. Like, I don't know. I think that's something we should think about. I feel like obviously it's going to play an even bigger role this season because of all of that. Like, I feel like Chow and Minerva's war is going to be a thing, but I think it's just going to be like a precursor to all this other, like another war heading into the Badlands, you know. But I mean, that's just my thought process behind it. We'll just have to wait and see. But really, that's all I want to talk about in this episode. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.